I knew this house by sound, taught myself to see every slam, every crash, every hit, all from just the crack of my bedroom door. I could never fully tune anything out. If I forgot to listen, I forgot to be on guard, and if I forgot to be on guard, then it hurt worse. I sat at the edge of my damp bed, still drying from the scrub job I had to give my mattress after finding the drunken demon collapse in the one clean space in the house. My space, if I could even call it that. There was no space for me here, so I listened with a small paperback in my hands, pages bending as my fingers pressed into it. Sure, I still looked at the words on the page, but I couldn't read. Not with the sounds of her cries bleeding into the practically empty room. Just my bed, framed in the corner of the room, but not touching any of the trembling walls. I could see it, her body so small compared to him, thrown into the cracked wall. Pieces of drywall tumbled down from fist-sized holes, bat-sized holes, my own head-sized holes. It was hard to believe any wall was left down there. The crashing of plastics came next. Falling towers of takeout containers landed on the floor as she picked herself up. She didn't scream now. She was probably down there begging again, asking him to stay as if our lives wouldn't be better if he just disappeared. Then again, she'd just blame me for that too. Things went quiet. I looked across the small room to the crack in the door. Maybe it was done for tonight. Maybe she got her way. Or maybe he finally killed her, like we all knew he would one day. My eyes found the words on the page again, picking back up on this chapter that I was supposed to finish before class tomorrow. I was supposed to do this with D. We had made plans to eat our warm bowls of his dad's chili, then take turns reading pages and answering the questions Mrs. Rowe assigned. That was before Mom had to stumble out of the house, crying that I needed to help her, that he wasn't breathing. But he was breathing, snoring, in his piles of piss and vomit on the bed that was supposed to be mine. I felt hotter, heat trickling up my neck as my heart beat harder in that muggy room. She must have cranked the heat in the wintertime since it was illegal for them to turn it off, she said. Then spring rolled back around, and we were back to cold showers. Or waking up extra early to go to Dee's place and shower there before he woke up. So much happened around him in his home that he didn't have to hear. He could relax, live worry-free, knowing that no one was going to hurt him. He didn't have to jump up at the sounds of screams the way I did now. I was on my feet before she could finish the "wait" that broke from her in cracks, followed by the sobs of "no, no, no, no," as he told her to "shut the fuck up." I stuffed my schoolwork back into my bag and turned for the basket at the edge of my bed. I snatched 2 bundles of folded clothes. Shirt, sock, pants, drawers, all folded together. Always. Too many times I had to run from here, taking nothing with me, then having to show up to school with inside-out shorts under a pair of Dee's jeans. Now, I stayed ready. Finally, I stuffed my coat into the bag, checking in at the sounds of her screams. Still downstairs, but so close. They were right by the steps, right by the front door. As long as he didn't have her choked up against the chipping wood, then I could make a run for it. But if he was there, then I was stuck. I zipped my bag and slung it over my shoulders. I headed for the cracked door, ready to peek out and plan my escape, but stopped when she screamed my name. When "help!" screeched from her like a final cry. I froze, feet heavy before my door. I could help. Run down those stairs, catch him off guard, free her from his grasp, only for me to be clinched in his claws. Then, when I cried for help, she'd watch, she'd sob, she'd say, "I can't watch this." Then she'd retreat, back to her kitchen table with her cigarette and can of room-temperature beer, with her head in her hands, as if she were so hopeless, as if she weren't the one to bring this monster into our lives. She'd do it all over again, like she had before. I could feel again already, feel the way each finger pushed into my neck, his thumb pressing to my throat, making it uneasy to breathe, his sour breath, heating my skin and burning my nose as he leaned into me, looking down with his bloodshot eyes, while I calculated if that was a time to push back or not. Then the surge of pain that moved through me when his fist landed into my stomach, making my organs shift and my head fall heavy, right before it rose again with coughs forcing themselves from my lips as I tried to remember how to breathe with the limited space he gave. I could throw myself into that again, just to spare her. But I didn't move. Frozen, I stayed, with my heart pounding, my head racing, wondering if I was becoming like them. Was I a monster too for not saving her when I knew I could? But I also knew that she wasn't worth sacrificing myself for. She didn't leave here. She didn't go out into the world to have others clean her wounds. No one worried for her. She wasn't like me. Just 2 doors down, I had a whole house of people to look over every mark he left, and that night I didn't want to bring them worries. I didn't want to drag in my scars. Not that night. So I stayed. I listened to the thrash, to the soft collapse of bones on the tile at the door. I listened to her beg him not to go. Then I heard his heavy boots stomping. Then the door slammed. He was gone, and a heavy gasp pushed out of her. I stepped back towards my door, reached for it, but stopped again at the sound of my name growled from her. "Major." I could feel my teeth scraping against each other with my jaw locked tight. My temples already throbbed from the tension as she toppled her way up the stairs. "Major!" she shouted, pushing into my room. Tears soaked her face, thinning out the blood that dripped from the open cut below her eye. Past the dark skin, you could see the red of swelling on her face, the welts forming on her arms and neck in the shapes of his hands. "Why did you let him do that to me?" She cried out, falling forward, her hands clenching my shirt, with her stench rising from her unwashed skin. I turned my head, trying to spare myself the smells of sweat and rot. My hands wrapped around her small wrist and pulled her fists from my shirt. I had nothing to say to her. She never heard me anyway. I moved past her. Her cries turned to spits of fire. "You ain't shit," she reminded me, as if she hadn't told me that every time she bothered to speak to me. "Ain't shit just like yo daddy. Look at you, running out just like him too." I started down the stairs, feeling the bony fists patting against my back. Snowballs compared to the stones that Demon carried around as fists. I barely felt a thing, until I was snagged back, stumbling on the stairs as she snatched at the top of my book bag. "Ma, just stop," I groaned, quickly picking myself up from the crowded staircase, overrun with dirty clothes that never made it to the basement for washing. I tried to pull myself away from her without bringing her any more pain, but her flimsy body flung forward, slipping, tripping over a pair of jeans, plunging down the stairs the moment I stepped aside. I thought about letting her fall. I thought I wanted her to fall, but my arm launched out, my hand latched onto her arm, yanking her back until she fell backwards, plopping down onto the step behind her. I didn't mean to say the whispered, "Be careful," as I turned to head back down the stairs and to the door. I heard her pattering feet rushing down the stairs and hurried to throw the door open and leave. The second I closed the door, it was snatched open again. "So you just gonna leave me too? Yo punk ass just gonna keep running to Vanette, letting her ass baby you. That's why you so fucking soft now." She screamed on the porch as my footsteps quickened. There was no looking back as I made my way across the snow-covered yards. I skipped the sidewalks and headed straight over, speeding past the old abandoned house and hopping up the few stairs and onto the porch with my mother still screaming 2 doors down. When I brought my knuckles to the door, I couldn't seem to stop knocking. Soft raps, quickly repeating until the door opened, and my heart skipped as my head raised. I took a step back as I looked up. "Oh, hey," shook out of me when I looked into the face of Dante's dad. I tried to smooth my voice. "Mr. Pops, is it cool if I—" He opened the door wider, waved me in. "Come on, you letting out all the heat," he laughed. "Right." I hurried into the house, and he shut us in while I dragged my feet across the rug before deciding to just slip the tight shoes off. I wouldn't be running that night, so there was no need to keep them on. He crossed his arms, leaned against the door, looking over me as he asked, "You okay?" "Yeah," I said too quickly, nodding too much. "Yeah, I'm good." He took it, nodding slowly despite how unconvincing I sounded. But I was good. No one hurt me that time. That time, I left on my own. That time, I should have been fine, not shaking up words with a heart that forgot how to beat normally. "Well, Dante's up in his room. Vanette just started putting up the food, so if you want to eat, you might want to go now." He pointed towards the kitchen before turning to the stairs. "I'll let Dante know." "No," was yanked from me, stopping him in his tracks. "I mean, it's fine. I'll head up soon." I pulled a smile to my face, leaned against the wall as I let my bag drop from my shoulder, forcing myself to calm the fuck down. He stood at the first step, arm hanging over the rail, watching me, waiting for more. He didn't have to ask why I didn't want Dante to know I was there yet. His look said it all, the slow sigh, the raised brows telling me to go on. Did Dee tell you that he got drum set for this Christmas concert?" Mr. Pops dropped his head just a bit, a chuckle rolling out of him. "He did." My smile came a little easier now as I shook my head. "Of course he did. He was so excited, I swear, Mr. Pops, you should have seen him. Acting all surprised, but I knew he was going to get it. He'd been practicing for weeks while that senior just sat around swearing he was going to get it just because he had it last year." I laughed a little now. Just hours ago, Dee was sitting in the band room, hands covering his face while the room clapped for him, with me standing beside, clapping as loud as I could. At least until his hand wrapped around my wrist and he yanked me back down into my chair. He had enough attention on him then, but during the walk home, there was no stopping him. His brown eyes wide as he moved around, drumsticks flipping between his fingers, banging on every tree and fence that came in our path. Going on about the exact moment he knew he was going to get the spot, because upperclassmen all played too loud with these big moves that forced everyone to look at them. "See, they don't know how to be in a band, all of them acting like the star of the show when it's not about that," he poured out, latching onto my arm, leaning in close before exploding away again to attack a low-hanging branch with sound. "'Cause I had been playing with you from the start, we know how to not outshine each other when we played together. They don't have that, but for us, That's just natural, I had suggested to him, smiling, watching him in those rare moments of just pulsing joy. I could have sworn he was glowing then, when he turned, smiling at me. Natural, yeah. He dropped an arm around my shoulders, but it felt so weightless, as though he were actually floating in that moment. His laugh, so easy when he said, "You even know when to draw back when you be trying to show out at those drum-offs." "Gotta make sure I don't leave you hanging." I laughed with him. I couldn't help it, just getting to be around him. While he was so happy, even his touch at that moment felt like everything. It wasn't often that he was so close. Not like when we were younger, and it was okay for limbs to be draped across each other. But that closeness only came in small moments at a time, just seconds, and his hand was on my shoulder, shoving me away. "Yeah, you remember that when you play in the slapsticks." I liked the slapsticks, I shrugged, and it was true. I liked being the moment that made people giggle when they weren't supposed to, but I couldn't stop myself from looking down at the distance that had grown between us so fast. Mr. Pop's voice drew me back to the hall. "So you don't want to bring down his good day with this right now, is what I'm hearing." He put together the thought that I couldn't figure out how to say, Yeah, I just need to chill out a bit first, if that's fine." He laughed, shaking his head as he stepped down from the stairs and turned towards the living room. "You're just too good. You know that, Major?" I laughed too, unsure. "I don't know about that one." He gave a definite, "Well, I know," before disappearing into the living room with a final call of, "The house is yours. Do what you need." I thought he knew what I needed was a break, just a breath, a moment alone. I let my head drift back against the wall, let my eyes close, and took a long breath without a worry of intaking too much of the rotting scent that consumed that house I lived in. Dee didn't know how much I did not to track that filth here, not to let it sink into my hair, my skin, my clothes. He didn't need to know that. Already he knew more than I wished he did, but I didn't think it would change a thing. The one time a roach crawled out of my bag in his living room, he just stepped on it, hung the bag up, and handed me a controller to play Smash Bros. He didn't say a word. Didn't look at me as he picked up the smushed bug, just went on like it was nothing. Meanwhile, I sat there, embarrassed as hell, mapping out strategies to make sure that never happened again. And it hadn't happened again. Now I could confidently drop my bag on the floor and head into the kitchen. "Hey, Mrs. Mama," I said, walking straight to the sink to wash my hands. Already she had a bowl of chili in hand, heading over to the microwave to reheat it. "Hey, baby, you staying here tonight?" This wasn't a question. If it wasn't already my plan to stay there, it would be now. There was no saying no to her. She moved quickly about her kitchen, while I stayed pressed to the counter, stepping out of her way as she returned to the sink with a few more dishes inside. "I can do those after I eat," I volunteered, knowing what she was going to say. "I got it. You need to eat. Go ahead and grab that cheese and sour cream from the fridge. There's some cornbread on the stove, or if you want some chips or crackers, that's in the cabinet." She didn't have to tell me which cabinet. I knew that kitchen better than my own. The kitchen was Mom's domain, and I didn't cross that threshold. By the time I had gathered my fixings, the microwave had gone off. I took the hot bowl over to the counter and prepped my food, smelling the seasoning, the fresh cut peppers and onions, and mixed everything together to create a cheesy, creamy bowl of heat that I took a spoon of, knowing that it would burn my mouth. The heat settled on my tongue the moment it touched me. I leaned back at the counter, taking in air, trying to cool the bite I shouldn't have taken. But I was hungry. School lunch seemed so long ago, and they always seemed to give me the smallest slice of pizza. While there, Mrs. Mama loaded up every bowl and plate she handed me. "Heard your mama out there shouting," she brought up gently, as I crushed crackers into my bowl. "Yeah," I sighed. "They got into a fight and he left. Then she came at me, so I had to go." She peeked up from the dishes. "He ain't put his hands on you?" "Nah, just her." I took another bite, considering if I should say, she called for help, and I didn't do anything, so I guess that meant I was the bad guy this time. "Don't you believe that shit for 1 second, she snapped, like there would be consequences to pay if she caught me thinking that. The way that woman worked, though, it wouldn't surprise me if she could read my mind, catching me slipping and sending one of her slippers flying my way. That's your mama's man, so that's her problem, not yours. It ain't your job to protect that woman. Lord knows she ain't lifting a finger to protect you in that house, so more power to you for walking away." She spoke stern, but gentle. We both knew that wasn't the first time she told me that I didn't need to stand up for her. It was just the first time I actually listened, and it felt wrong to not feel bad, to not pity her, to not see her as some sad little victim, but she wasn't. She chose that for herself, and it wasn't my fault if she was mad that I wasn't choosing that life for me. I knew she hated that I found something better, that I had a home to run to. My home just wasn't with her. I started to think she could read my mind when she said, "And don't you waste no time feeling sorry for her sorry ass. She the one letting this happen. If she actually wanted help, she would have got it a long time ago." "Okay, Mrs. Mama." A smile cracked, listening to her make a fuss over that again. I see how much she did care. I was glad I met her. Glad I met Dante. Without this, I didn't think I would have known what love was supposed to look like. Maybe I would have forgotten about warm hugs and soft kisses on cheeks, but she'd never let me forget that. She dried her hands, stepped to me, took my bowl of chili, and set it down on the counter before opening her arms and waving me in. And there was no saying no to her, so I leaned in, let her wrap her arms around my tight shoulders, and felt them sink a bit. Her hand patted my back as ease started to settle. Then, in a breath, she was loosening her grasp. She backed away, looked me in my face, and brushed her thumb at the corner of my lips, brushing away what must have been some cracker crumbs, before placing a small kiss on my cheek the way she had done since I was small, the same way she did for her own son. I couldn't remember my own mother doing that for me. She never could make me breathe easier in just a moment. Could never make me wish to be held by her for just a moment longer. But she pulled back and told me, "Clean up your mess when you're done." She patted my shoulder and started out of the kitchen, heading for the living room with her husband. I finished my food and cleaned up after myself. I washed my bowl and wiped down the counter before I went upstairs. Up just one flight of stairs. I still wasn't ready to see D yet. So I went to the bathroom for a centipede-free shower that I didn't have to rush out of. I could roll my neck under the hot water and let all that was tight loosen. There was a space for my toothbrush next to Dante's. A basket of his skincare sat beside a basket of my skincare. There, I had a towel hooked on the back of the door next to his. It was getting hard to remember not having a space in that home. I threw on an old pair of sweats that either shrank or that I outgrew, or maybe both. The elastic cuffs were now at my calves, and the stretch fabric didn't seem to have enough stretch around my thighs anymore. But it was just to sleep, so that would be fine. I tugged on a t-shirt with just a small rip under the arm from my mom clinging to it the last time I wore it. Those were clothes no longer suitable for wearing, but perfectly fine for pajamas. I grabbed my bag, stepped out of the bathroom, and walked to Dante's closed door. I didn't bother to knock, never bothered to knock. Just opened the door, closed it behind me, and started up the stairs to the attic that became Dee's bedroom. I found myself rushing up now, taking the stairs 2 at a time, knowing that for the rest of the night I could just chill. No more being on edge, no more listening for every sound. That night, I could sleep with no worries after we got done with the homework. I expected to see him sitting on his bed, book in hand, rushing to write out answers in his sloppy handwriting because he just got started. But when I got to the landing, I stopped with a small chuckle leaving me as I leaned over the banister. There he was at his computer, those soundproof headphones over his ears while he bobbed his head to the music he was working through. Probably setting up another playlist or practicing those mixes he had been working on but wouldn't share with anyone. Well, anyone but me. His book bag remained closed, leaning against the foot of the desk, not a book, a paper, or even a pen in sight. That was going to be a long night. But as I crossed his room, I couldn't bring myself to stop him. So I sat back on his bed, lay back, letting him stay in his zone for a moment longer. I let my eyes close, let my body sink into his soft mattress. His blankets were starting to smell more like him than the laundry detergent they used. That citrus body wash rising from beneath me, he swore the scent reminded him of summer and helped him through those cold months that he hated. I never really did mind the cold, but summers were always better. I met him in the summer, after all. In the summer, I escaped there for days at a time. I pretended that was my real home, and forgot that nightmares lived in the same place that I did. In the summer, they only wanted to get rid of me, so I didn't have to spend my nights plotting how I would one day escape them for good. Hey, I heard the word push out of him with a laugh, then the question of, "How long have you been here?" I didn't bother to open my eyes and tried to keep my smile low when I joked, "Like an hour." "Bullshit," he laughed. I might not have been in that spot for the last hour, but I had been there, though he didn't need to know that. My eyes did shoot open when he said, "I'm glad you're here, though." I missed his face. By the time my eyes opened, he was back to his computer screen, and I couldn't let him get lost in that again. "Come on, D. We gotta do that homework." I know, just wait. "I gotta show you something," he said, that same excitement from before popping up again. "I found this song, or I guess it found me." He laughed, but that laugh fell a bit, voice going lower when he said, "You were the first person I thought of when I heard it." Then I started building this whole playlist around it. He spun around in his computer chair, wearing a smile that I was sure couldn't go any wider. A smile that made my own smile grow. "I know you'll love it." I believed him the moment he said it. Musically, he could read me like a book. He always knew what to play and when to play it. Knew when I needed to be pulled out of a daze with something hype that I loved, and knew when I needed to sit in the pain with something slow and real. I readied myself to take in that new track, prepared myself to pay attention, to listen to both the rhythm and the words, because the whole song was important to him. So I tuned in like there was a pop quiz afterward. Then he turned from me again, and I felt that smile that just grew, shrink just a little once his warm eyes looked away. I didn't think my heart was supposed to sink the way it did, like I could feel it falling against the mattress beneath me. But I also didn't think it was supposed to shoot back up the way it did when that big smile came back to me. Maybe I was still nervous, worried that I hadn't managed to wash away all the mess of my world, and that he'd see it. Then again, I knew my nerves. Felt the tight stomach I got around him when he was so close to my truths. It wasn't like the jittering that moved through me then, making my eyes flick away from him and back to the wooden beams of his ceiling as the music began to play. Soft notes that sprang into a rhythm that made me see strobe lights in the back of my mind. I could see the dance floor, feel the heat rising from my skin as I moved. Those jitters started to fade away as my foot bobbed at the edge of his bed, but I couldn't seem to stop my heart from beating so hard then, like it was trying to join the percussion section on the track. I knew he was still watching me. I had always felt those eyes on me, felt myself standing taller, laughing louder, smiling brighter, then looking up, to the trees, to the ceiling, to the sky, just to not get caught in his stare. Only a few times I caught myself looking too long, trapped by just how warm those eyes could be. Such a bright brown, like he had never seen darkness before. Like he had never seen darkness in me, even though I knew he had, but in his eyes it was like everything around him was light. I wasn't supposed to get caught up looking too long. Like I knew I wasn't supposed to be getting caught up listening only to the beat of that song he chose for me. So I tuned back in, let my eyes close, and opened my ears to listen to the woman's voice. To listen in as she sang about him, seeing the best in her, about how she just wanted to be close to him, to move with him, be with him, singing about how she was in love. Because what else could it be? What else could it mean to cherish every touch and live for the moments to be seen by him? She said it herself that she had it bad. But if what she had was bad, then what did I have? Because my mind shouldn't have been racing like it was then, wondering why he thought of me when that song found him. Or maybe I should have been wondering that, instead of thinking of every moment with him, of the closeness that came so far in between now. Of course, I would miss that, right? I mean, I used to be able to just throw myself into his arms when we were younger, then suddenly, that just stopped. I was supposed to grow past that. But didn't we all miss the things that came easy to us as kids? And it wasn't like I was the only one to get caught up looking at Dee. Shay stayed staring at him, always trying to get close to him, get alone with him. And when she finally got his number for a school project in 8th grade, it was like she was always there, calling him every day for a whole week just for her, and Rain to giggle on the phone, saying nothing. She was so annoying. I was happy the day he stopped taking her calls, started turning his phone off, letting it be just us like it always had been, like how I always wanted it to be. So, my eyes flung open, and I flew up, sitting up in his bed, heart thumping in my chest. What? You falling asleep or something? He laughed, leaning forward in his chair, those eyes still on me, like they had been on me that whole time. My cheeks were starting to feel warm. I mean, Dee's room always got hot up there. Mr. Pops did too good of a job on the insulation. Nah, just daydreaming, I guess. I tried for a laugh, but it came out choppy, skittering out of me while I forgot to look away. He sat back, his chair rocking against his weight as he pointed a finger my way. See, when you start hallucinating like that, I know you in love. His smile seemed to grow more, showing the pride he was always hiding. Those humble moments were cute, but this was what? Major, what the fuck was wrong with you? Sitting on your best friend's bed, gripping the edge of his mattress while I tried to keep a cool, easy smile instead of grinning like the fool I knew I looked like right then. At least he didn't ask me where my daydreams had led me this time, because I was pretty sure I couldn't lie to him when he was looking at me like that. So eager as he watched me. This time he was the one to break, to let his eyes fall, giving me a moment to breathe as he pulled his bottom lip between his teeth as if he were trying to bite away the smile that was stuck on his face. Those full lips just went right back to where they were before, drawing a laugh out of me. Nice to know I wasn't the only one failing to control my face. Of course, he was just excited about the music. He had always been in love with music. Me, I didn't have an excuse for this. Maybe I was just happy. I mean, I was there. I got to be clean, fed, with a bed of my own, and the security in knowing no one was going to attack me in the middle of the night. Reason enough to be happy. Even heart racing can't stop smiling happy, right? For real. Those eyes came back to me, stopping the racing heart for just a beat. You like it? I love it, fell from my lips before my mind could even think of what to say. Before I could remember that he was asking about the song, and nothing else. Finally, I let my gaze fall from his, looking to the wooden floors, fighting not to follow his voice again, when his laugh rang so softly. I knew you would. Yeah, I said, keeping my eyes low, letting my heart settle, trying to keep my breathing easy as I failed to push back the thoughts that kept circling back to the front of my mind. Thoughts of how he looked at me like what I thought meant the world to him. Like I meant the world to him. But that was too much to ask for, to hope for, even. If I even wished for that, because if I did, then that would mean everything. No, nothing. Even if I knew that I'd never care about anyone the way I cared about Dante. And Dante, I didn't think he'd ever care so much about anyone else. But the day he did, I knew I'd be the first to know. He'd wear this excited face all over again as he told me about someone else. Already, I felt the ache sinking in for the moment that hadn't even happened yet. It could be any day now, though. It wasn't just Shay that looked, that leaned in close, that asked for help when they clearly didn't need it. D, he got along with anyone who spoke to him. He was funny when they gave him a chance to relax, and he was a good-looking guy. Anyone could see that. He'd kinda nailed the perfect smile. Straight white teeth, full lips that pulled to just the right peaks, the top lip a brown just a shade darker than his clear brown skin. His bottom lip a soft pink that made anyone look twice. Then those warm eyes that would make anyone feel wanted if they stayed on you long enough. Then his body, broad shoulders slipping down to a tight waist, and long legs. If he tried, I was sure he could get any girl in the school, but he spent all his time with me, and when he wasn't with me, he was disappearing into his music. Major. I felt a knock on my knee, my head raising, seeing him standing right in front of me, his bag slung over his shoulder, smiling softly at me. Come on, let's get this work done and get to bed. Right, I nodded, flying up before he got the chance to back away. All of a sudden, I didn't know how close was too close to stand anymore. I was sure eyelash counting close was on the end of too close, though, so I moved, went to grab my bag while he turned, walking away from his bed. We can go to your spot, he suggested, heading for the big window in his room. My favorite spot in that house, or my spot, as he called it. The tight space that we once fit perfectly in together, back when we were smaller and didn't have to duck to settle into the space. He was already ducking down, sitting on the floor at the window by the time I joined him, sitting across from him. The both of us dug out our overused paperbacks in the red folders we both agreed meant English. He flipped through the pages until he got to the torn piece of paper he used for a bookmark. To him, I was the barbarian for just remembering the page we left off on. Like I knew I was farther than him. I had no distractions at home, no games, no phone. I had nothing else to do but schoolwork. But I listened to him read the start of the chapter anyway. He always started out like he didn't care. Then he'd start getting into it, putting on voices as he read. I was looking forward to this part of my day, so I sat back and listened to what I had already read. He read 2 pages, then I did the same, and back and forth we went, with everything feeling as it had before. I knew I was digging into things too much. That song, it was just getting to me. This was fine. How it had always been. I believed this until we were halfway through our sheet of comp questions, and he shifted over to sit beside me, leaning in to point into my book, showing the quote he was trying to get me to see. Right there, he leaned in, shoulder pressed to mine, the scent of that citrus soap rising from his skin. He was right. It did smell like summer. This time he got evidence. He pulled the pictures out in the car, so he can't be lying this time. Yeah, but that doesn't mean we could trust him on anything else, though, I said, knowing I should have backed away, but I didn't. I kept his warm touch on me, sat in the closeness, but didn't dare look up. Okay, but Nick trusted him, he argued. We were supposed to be making our cases on, if Nick was an unreliable narrator here. I laughed out loud. I don't trust Nick's judgment. Why not? Are you reading the same book? I laughed, slipping, looking up, his face right there, eyes right in front of me, already locked on mine. I had more words to say. I did. But now, my lips just fell apart with no sound leaving them as my heart started up again. Why? He asked again. 'Cause, I said, trying to hold in my laugh, he's like obsessed with Gatsby. He thinks too highly of him, so to Nick, Gatsby could do no wrong, meaning unreliable. I smirked now, feeling more settled in this closeness that he didn't back away from. He just laughed again. Okay, but what do you mean by obsessed? Dude, the book is named after Gatsby, but Nick is our narrator. You gotta be pretty obsessed with someone to spend a whole book talking about them, watching them, talking about. I flipped back through my book for a page. My dog, eared, one of those rare smiles with a quality of eternal reassurance in it. Eternal reassurance, D? Come on, ain't nobody looking that hard, I said, trying to forget all the thoughts of his smile that kept rolling back through my mind. I tried to keep my own smile under control as he laughed. Okay, point proved. Now, how are we supposed to write that? He let his head sink back, eyes falling low. It was late, thankfully. This was the last question. After I got my air mattress blown up, we could both get some sleep. That sleepy smile broke again to say, 'cause I'm about to put Nick is in love with Gatsby so he can't trust a word he says and call it a night. I never said he was in love, I huffed, the word feeling heavy on my tongue. Basically the same thing. He went for his paper and started scratching down his answer. I did the same, cleaning it up a bit before we both shoved our work back into our red folder and zipped it away in our bags. But neither of us moved after that. We sat, silence between us for just a few beats. He drew his knees in, wrapping an arm around them, while his other hand sat in the thin space between us. His head drifted back to the wall again, eyes barely open, smile gone when he said, "Okay, so, I know I don't always ask you about stuff, but you good?" He asked, tipping his head my way, catching just a glimpse before I turned my head to the window, to the stars that flickered above us all on this clear night. "It feels like there's something you want to tell me." "Nah, Dee, I'm good," I said, and it wasn't a lie. Physically, I was good. That demon didn't touch me today. He still pissed me off, but now I was good. As good as I'd ever be, I was sure. "Let's just go to bed." "You sure? I mean, we can talk about anything. You know that, right?" Silence fell as I tried to figure out how to say, "I don't think that falling for you is something we can talk about while still being friends." I couldn't say that. It could ruin everything. I could lose everything. My only friend and the only place that's ever felt like home. All because one night I thought too far into a song he played for me. So I just got up, moved toward his closet with a final, "I'm good." I reached down to the bottom of the closet and dragged out the air mattress. Right away, I plugged it in and started the electric pump, knowing that he wouldn't try to talk over the loud noise. But I also didn't expect him to come sit beside me on the floor with the inflating bed in front of us. I didn't expect for him to lay his head on my shoulder. He let out a slow breath, and when I looked down, I saw that his eyes were closed, falling half asleep here rather than just going and climbing into his bed. He didn't say a word, not until I clicked the pump of the air mattress off. Then he said so softly, "I'm not going to bug you about it, but don't carry too much on your own, okay? You start spacing out when you do that, and everything is better when you're actually here with me, so if you gotta talk, okay?" What else could I say to that but, "Okay. Cool." He lifted his head from my shoulder and stretched his arms up before he stood. He got just 2 steps away before "Dante" was ripped from my throat. He stopped, turned back to me with a calm face, ready to listen to anything I had to say. For a moment, I feared I'd tell him everything. Tell him these unsure feelings that I couldn't seem to choke down, but I knew I couldn't. But I had to say something. I had to give him some reason for calling his name. Can I hear that song again?" His smile came back, spreading wide across his face and bringing a smile to mine. "Yeah." He dug into his pocket and pulled out his phone. "It's the first song on my most recent playlist." He tossed the phone to me and backed away. "Bathroom. I'll be right back." He turned for the stairs, disappearing down them, leaving me with his phone. I had wanted to listen to that song again, memorize its sound, and play it back in my mind on nights I forgot that there were people in this world thinking about me. That he was thinking about me. I opened his phone with the password I'd known since he got his first phone. His music app was still open, with a chain of playlists that filled the screen, each one of them with its own name. Study hall, Thursday cold nights old man study hall, Wednesday alone then, his piece. I figured it'd be too much to believe that he meant me, but who else would he have meant? I was ready to scroll through, reading more of his playlist names, but I pulled my attention back to the one at the top of the list. The most recent playlist, titled "See Him Smile." And smile I did, as I tapped on the playlist and heard the soft notes start to play again. I had to will the phone out of my hand to make up the air mattress that I hoped I got to sleep on for the next few nights. I hoped they'd forget about me again and let me stay there for a while. At least gave me enough time to figure out how to look at him again without my heart trying to run from my thoughts, because as the song played again, all I could see was him and me, and moments that reminded me just how much there was to live for. He was right about the title. My smile hadn't left since the song started to play. Then that smile deepened more as it went into the next song. An old song that his mom played on the radio from an old burned CD his dad gave her back when they were dating. She'd dance across the kitchen and into the dining room where we used to do our homework. She'd sing loud, dancing around her son, trying to get him up to dance, but he never budged. Then she'd groan, "Fine," and hold a hand out to me, and every time I took her hand and danced with her, joined in her singing, in her teasing of trying to get Dee to join us. I always hoped that he would, but he'd just sit there, watching us. Annoyed, embarrassed at first, but then he'd smile, and that was enough. Then the song would end, and she'd tell us to get back to work. I was done making up my bed, and found myself back in Dee's phone. Back to the list of playlists, reading the titles, and probably reading too much into each one. It wasn't my fault, though. So many of them said he, him, his, or just my name straight up. Major thoughts, his quiet moments, he can't help but sing, "Play this when you want him back." Us these, I was sure, were made with me in mind. but one had stopped my scroll and my heart as the next song played. The start of the next song couldn't save my smile. I felt my hand tighten around the warm phone as I looked and questioned the playlist titled First Love. Now that one, there was no way that was made with me in mind. But who? Dee never talked about any girl, never talked to any girl for too long. Unless it was on days I was gone, days the demons wouldn't let me free of the dungeon. I didn't know what he did on those days, or who he talked to when I wasn't around, and I never asked. I guess I could have looked. His phone was already in my hand. One look at his messages, and I could see. But I knew I wouldn't do that. And still, I managed to jump a little at the sound of his door closing again. My heart skipped like I was doing something wrong, when I knew I wasn't. So I pulled my smile back to my face and tried to act cool as I looked through the playlists. Yo, did you have to name every one of your playlists? It's how I know when to play them, he laughed, showing no worry about me looking through his creations. I don't want to click the wrong one, then kill the mood. That would literally get me killed at one of Jess's parties. He walked over to his dresser and quickly snatched out a bundle of black fabric before he started making his way back to me. And what kind of mood was, play this when you want him back? I questioned, watching him as he came closer, sitting on the edge of the air mattress. He leaned back on his hands, answered confidently. See, that was for when you be spacing, and I was trying to bring you back to reality. 'Cause sometimes you're gone. His eyes closed as he tilted his head back, explaining, see, it starts off with some of your deep thought stuff. Then it went into a few of those slow jams you be humming to yourself when you think nobody hears you, and that start guiding you back. Then it goes to some of the more nostalgic stuff that makes you smile, and usually that gets you out of it. You usually turn to me and start telling some story from when we were kids that I barely remember, and you somehow remember every detail of. Then you're talking to me again, and everything is good. He kept his eyes closed while I tried to slow my racing mind. He watched me. He knew me. I knew this, but I didn't think anyone had ever paid that much attention to me. Enough to have my every mode mapped out to a T. I wanted to ask more. Wanted to ask how much he thought about me when I wasn't here. But instead, I laughed. Cracked a joke. Okay, Nick. A laugh cackled out of him, low, as he leaned over, sinking down onto the bed I just made. Don't try to do me like that, Major. His eyes still closed when he dropped that bundle of fabric into my lap before bringing his arm behind his head, making himself too comfortable in, not his bed. And what about that First Love playlist? You holding out on me? I tried to laugh, hoped that it came out natural as I unfolded the black sweatpants. He wouldn't say anything about the old stained pants with the waistband digging into my hips. He never actually commented on any of the clothes I had, not to me anyway. Sometimes he'd just hand me some of his clothes, or sometimes we'd get home from school, and his parents had a new pair of shoes for me. I didn't say thank you like I should have. I just got up and backed away as he lay there, eyes still closed, when he said, you know it's not like that. He let out a yawn, his eyes opening, flicking to me. It's just, my hand froze at my waistband when his eye flew open. I felt the heat flood to my face. Yeah, he looked at me, but he's not looking at me. Not like that. I'd changed in front of him a million times. Why was this weird now? I stayed frozen as he went on. It's just, that playlist was what I thought it would feel like to be in love for the first time, you know. That's all. That's all? A playlist filled with fluttered bellies and long gazes at someone he didn't know yet. I joked my way through, that's all, I questioned, then took a deep breath and started to tug away the tight pants. Too tight to fall on their own, I had to peel the fabric from my legs and unhook the tight cuffs from my calves, revealing the indents the elastic left on me. You sure you don't have a girlfriend? I tried to keep the teasing going as I hurried to pull on the pants he gave me. The black fabric was soft and not pinching anywhere. You would be the first to know if I did, Dee laughed. Besides, it's gonna be you first anyway. What? Oh yeah, one day you're just gonna disappear with one of those girls that be all over you at Jess's parties. Then I'm gonna have to come home and give Ma some lame excuse about why you didn't come home. Home? Left my lips in a breath. In my mind, I called this home, but it was rare to hear it out loud. His eyes closed again as the next song on the playlist played. I didn't know if it was the song or his laugh that brought my smile back, but it was back. He chuckled. Yeah, until you get a girlfriend and spend all your time with her. Then I'm just going to be sitting there making sad little playlists like I was making the soundtrack to some Pixar movie, all because my best friend left me. I would never leave you, Dee, blurted out of me in a soft laugh before I could think if it should. And my laugh stopped, and his laugh stopped, and the music played softly, and the room felt still, and heavy, and hot, and spinning all at once while he said nothing. While he opened his eyes, looking at the ceiling, saying nothing. I didn't think my heart was beating. I was sure my heart would never beat again. In fact, it could have gone ahead and stopped. I could have dropped dead right then because there was no coming back from this if I just fucked up damn near 10 years of friendship because I had to go saying some gay shit. Major, what the fuck? That was gay. That was gay as fuck. That was a big-ass fucking rainbow flag flapping across the whole damn room. Now I had to sit here and try not to melt into a puddle on the floor. Seconds more of his silence and I was ready to go. Ready to turn back and go home. I'd take the ass whooping. It couldn't be any worse than this right now. I couldn't even force a laugh out of me. I couldn't play it off. And I couldn't look away from him. I watched him as he sat up, knees pulled to his chest, arms wrapping around those long legs before he looked at me, making my sprinting mind go still. Yeah, he finally said. The word leaving him after so long, his sleepy eyes barely open, still looking up to the ceiling, away from me. I don't think I could ever leave you either. He said it so easily. None of the panic that just flew through me seemed to touch him at all. Maybe it wasn't so bad. Maybe it was just two bros having a heart-to-heart. We'd done this before, and I didn't panic then. I didn't think about any of it feeling like more than just me talking to my friend. Now, there was no more denying it. This was it for me. For me, everything changed, but I had to make sure nothing changed for him. I didn't need to be on his mind all the time. I didn't need to be the one he thought about when he sat alone listening to that First Love playlist. I didn't need him to like me like that. I just needed him to be in my life. Because without him, I knew that I wouldn't know love. Finally, I moved, breathed out, yeah, and went for his phone, turning the music off. We should get to bed. Yep, he chuckled, lying back down, still able to feel so light. He brought a laugh out of me, though, too. Your own bed. I huffed, heading for the light switch. I'm already comfortable. You take my bed, he said through a yawn while I flicked the lights out, filling the room with darkness. On a normal night, I might have taken him up on that offer, but now didn't feel like the right time to be wrapped up in the smell of him all night long. I wasn't sure how much of him I could actually handle at once right now, so I went back to my air mattress on the floor, knelt down, and gave D a push on his shoulder. For real, D, go to bed. A long sigh left him. Fine, before he flew up from the pillow, his face so close as we sat in the darkness. I couldn't see his eyes when he turned towards me. Couldn't see if he smiled, or if he watched me with worry. He had to know that I'm weird tonight. He knew me too well to not see it, but he couldn't know why, and right now, I couldn't see if he knew. There was just a moment, just us in the quiet dark, looking right at each other and seeing nothing. Questions had to fill him, but he wouldn't ask. He was so used to not asking, to just accepting my half-truths and my silent moments. He just took the little that I gave him, and he doesn't ask for more. He deserved so much more than this. I felt my lips part. I moved, just an inch closer, ready to what? To tell him something? To see if I'd let myself fall enough to actually try to make a move on him. I could have done it. Could have just moved forward and kissed him and let all questions come to rest. But he got up, and I handed over his phone and climbed into the already warmed bed. I did the smart thing, because what we had was not worth sacrificing for what could be. Besides, I had a lot of things to figure out myself. There went the good night's sleep I thought I was going to get, because I knew I was going to be up thinking about this. That morning, I knew I loved Dee, but as a friend, like it's always been. But now, I wasn't so sure. What I was sure of, though, was that I didn't smile so hard the last time he said, "Good night, Major," to me. And last time, I didn't have to struggle to keep a cool voice when I said back, "Night, Dee."